And now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning, let's bring in Arise analyst Constance Ikwoku. Good morning, Constance, and welcome.
Morning, Yolanda. Morning, and Adesua and Charles. Welcome, everybody. How are you guys doing?
Morning.
Good, thank you.
Good morning, Constance. I'm quoting you. Thank God tomorrow is Saturday.
Yes. We're talking in the newsroom, yes. It's no longer a TGIF. It's thank God tomorrow is Saturday. Okay, to look at the papers read up this morning, we have Eniola Akinkuotu. He is the Chief International Correspondent of the Africa Report. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day newspaper. FG, over 60% of Nigerian companies have exited national power grid. The federal government has announced a national integrated electricity policy to revive the sector and hopes that this will lead to the return of over 60% of manufacturing firms that pulled out of the national grid. We're also learning that the increase in Band A policy tariff led to an increase in revenue, 70% to be exact, from 1.05 trillion naira to 1.7 trillion in 2024. That is not sufficient, though. The country needs an investment of $32.8 billion between now and 2030, according to the Minister of Power. And you know, it is said that numbers do not lie. That's why it's great to have some stats on this topic. Over 60% of manufacturing firms withdrew from the national grid over the years, ostensibly because of the poor services. So the Minister of Power is giving himself now a sort of I think a tall order to make sure that these companies return to the grid. They are doing exactly, they are doing well without the government. So when you look at Dangote Industries, they are off the grid. MTN, so many other companies, without the government, they are doing fine. Do you think the government will be able to achieve this aim that it has set out for itself?
The Minister of Power, first said this back in January, that they were looking at how to, bring them back into the national grid. But I mean, what sense is in that exactly? Currently, these companies generate a combined roughly 6,200 megawatts, at least according to the minister, while Nigeria's current power generation is about 5,250. So these companies are even generating more than the entire Nigeria combined. So why will you tell them to come back when you're not even giving them what they need? This year alone, how many blackouts, national blackouts have we had, grid collapses? At least I think about 3, if I'm not mistaken. And that is, you don't even have these people on the grid. So now you're asking them to come back. It makes no sense to me. Just leave them where they are. Unfortunately, when you are generating power independently, it's far more expensive than when you would rely on the national grid. And at the end of the day, these manufacturers are going to, transfer the cost definitely to the end consumer. So when the Minister for Works, for instance, Dave Umahi, he says that, the cement manufacturers should bring down their costs. They're not going to do that because these are some of the, when he says you should bring down their prices, they won't reduce it because these are some of the hidden costs that you see. Dangote Refinery, for instance, is generating about 425 megawatts. Dangote Industries Limited is generating over 1,500 megawatts. So you know how much they're putting into it. Even if you look at your, just private estates here, you see that so many individuals, private homes are going off grid now. And that's what's going on. No one is going to wait for you anymore.
And Yolanda, I was just wondering, in Zimbabwe, do you face this, this same level of electricity crisis as we do in Nigeria?
Well, I can't speak on the electricity crisis in Zimbabwe because I haven't been there for almost 2 decades. But I will say this. I like that Eniola pointed out very well that everybody is going off-grid, and this headline isn't much of a surprise. When you have to deliver, you have to make your business work, you have to make those profits. You're going to make the sacrifices that, that are necessary. You've mentioned as well that it's more expensive. For me, if I were a business owner, I believe that it would be best to incur those costs, those extra costs, but ensure that I have steady electricity than to rely on a national grid that breaks down once every month as it did last year.
Yeah, lots of problems. So let's also see a Daily Independent this morning. There we have customers still on electricity. Customers are outside Band A to pay more as FG plans fresh review. This is aimed at increasing the liquidity of the Nigerian electricity supply industry, the government says. Minister of Power, Chief Adebayo Adelabu, claims the government no longer can afford 3 trillion naira in power sector subsidy. Debt owed to power generation companies is 4 trillion, he disclosed. Again, I mean, we have in another story on the front page of that of Daily Independent that the federal government now plans to tax free trade zones, and it seems that there's going to be a lot of taxes, charges all over the place in the country. So by the time this government is done with us, I think that Nigerians will need to have a rethink. Or what do you think, Eniola?
If you're following the public hearing on the tax reform, the tax bills in National Assembly, you see that there's a lot of back and forth here and there. There's no country where anyone wants to pay more taxes, But unfortunately, Nigeria's case is quite peculiar because I think there was a survey which Taiwo Idele's panel did, and I think they said more than 80%. I can't really remember the figure, but a lot of Nigerians don't want to pay. Why? Because they do not even see the dividend of the taxes that they pay. You still have a lot of profligacy in the public sector. You see the way the governors are spending the extra money that they got after the subsidy removal. And even the federal government too. You saw the residence that was built for the VP. The president also getting a new private jet and all that. So nobody is really gingered to pay more taxes. If you could actually get the commitment and to say that, from the government that, look, these taxes will be put to good use, I think people will be more inclined to pay. But as things stand right now, nobody wants to pay extra. Look at what they say now. You're going to increase the cost for Band B and the Band C. When currently even Band A, a lot of people on Band A are not even getting the needed hours that they are promised. And so I really don't know how you're going to convince Nigerians to key into this renewed drive for tax.
Is it a matter of convincing? They're just going to ram it through the people's throats. I think that's what's going to happen. But we have another story in the Punch on politics. I am loyal to Tinubu, but my actions are mine, according to Obasa. As Speaker takes over Assembly with 4 lawmakers. Miranda's fate uncertain, 36 lawmakers kick. There are a couple of photos on that front page showing impeached Lagos State Assembly Speaker Mudashiru Obasa addressing the press. His supporters with placards, he now claims he was never impeached, that he was on vacation. A lot of power play going on in the Lagos State Assembly at Desua. It is true that he was on vacation, but he was impeached. Now, there's, this politicking has heightened. What do you make of all this?
There are questions about the proprietyness of his impeachment because the House was on recess. So not only was he on vacation, but the House was in recess, and there are certain processes that are supposed to be followed in terms of, writing a letter to the clerk and convening a session of the House properly, which did not happen in this case. But beyond that, this is a show of shame. This is an absolute embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to the president. It's an embarrassment to the APC.
The president? Is the president not involved somehow?
Yes, it is. Well, I'm saying it is embarrassing. It is embarrassing to the president that the speaker, whether or not the speaker, Miranda, that her security details were essentially pulled off of her, allegedly coming from the IGP or from the police, removing her security detail. That is embarrassing. It is embarrassing that we had 2 former governors. We had Chief Bisi Akonde and Aremo Oshoba intervene. Two former governors who are respected elders in the APC intervene, and we still see this crisis. It is embarrassing that somebody can come up with a crowd with his own security personnel, storm into the Lagos State House of Assembly,
Right.
and then hold a session with 4 lawmakers.
Charles, you were itching to say something.
Because Mudashiru Obasa seems to be casting a very long shadow on the Lagos State House of Assembly. The man seems to have just dominated that space, whether in absentia, whether he has returned. I mean, the moment they announced that Obasa was returning to the country, the whole assembly became jittery. And now he has already made his move. But you know what the headline says, I am loyal to Tinubu, but my actions are mine. I think he is trying to say something here, but couching it in those terms. Because, I mean, there are suspicions in certain quarters that he is getting all that confidence from the fact, in quotes, that it is President Tinubu who is behind him. Well, he is coming out. Nobody accused him of that anyway. But in any case, he has come out to defend what he shouldn't even be bothering to defend, because there was no accusation in the first place. So I guess with this defense, it's even raising more suspicions.
It's an unfolding story, and yeah, it's so unfortunate. People are watching it play out in full glare. Let's see the Guardian. Obasanjo, 7 ex-leaders seek debt relief for African countries. 8 former heads of state have signed a Cape Town declaration calling for debt relief for highly indebted countries and advocated lower borrowing costs for developing countries. This took place on the sidelines of the G20 finance ministers meeting in Cape Town, South Africa, where the SAG20 presidency had made debt sustainability a central focus. The ex-leaders include former President Olusegun Obasanjo, Joyce Banda of Malawi, Jakaya Kikwete of Tanzania, Dr. Amina Gorib Fakim of Mauritius, among others. And they are calling for a better global financial architecture to better support developing countries. Eniola, I know you write for an international magazine. You know, we're talking about debt relief again. These statements are correct when they say that the international finance structure does not work for Africa. It doesn't suit us. But the other thing to note is that as it currently is, many countries benefit, especially the global players, you know, that run international trade. They benefit immensely from Africa in its current state. So it is not their priority to change any of it. So it behoves African countries to come together and push for a different, you know, architecture in the way that they want. And they have to do this collectively. There's no one country can achieve this.
Well, let me say something. This call is actually very timely too, because it's coming at a time when the global north is reducing foreign aid to Africa. So the US, the UK, Germany, they're all reducing foreign aid. And of course, one of the reasons is that Trump has asked them that they have to increase their security spending. So they're already making cuts here and there. And a country like Nigeria, for instance, where revenue, the deficit revenue to debt servicing, currently, I think it's about 45% thereabout. Nigeria is spending more on revenue, on debt servicing than on health, education, and infrastructure combined. And so, you know, it's the same in so many African countries because they are repaying so many debts. But what have they used the past debts to actually do? Because now you're asking for debt forgiveness. The ones that were pardoned in the past, what happened? How were you able to restructure your economy such that, you know, you be able to, you know, attract development to your country? They didn't do any of that, most of these African countries. They continue to engage in profligacy. And now you've gone back again to ask for debt for forgiveness. This was the thrust of Tinubu's speech at the UN General Assembly last year, where he was represented by Vice President Shettima. You know, he said that, please, we need to, you know, have some debt forgiveness in Africa so that at least the money that we're spending on debt servicing, we can put it on other things. The problem is that as long as you do not tackle this profligacy, this waste, you're going to continue to have this problem. It's not going to go away.
You were going to say something, I think, on Lagos State Assembly. Did you have something in mind to chip in quickly?
Yeah, you know, one thing I was going to say about that was that we're going to enter March tomorrow, I think, and the Lagos State House of Assembly has not passed any bill. They haven't done anything apart from this Obasa crisis. So you can see that it's already affecting the pace of governance. So I'm getting some feedback. It's already affecting the pace of governance. Now, the GAC and Chief Bisi Akonde and others, they actually met with, you know, some members of this Lagos State House of Assembly at Marina House, you know, with the governor and all that, where it was decided that Obasa and Miranda would step down. And the person who was favored was David Setonji, who is from Badagry. You know, so Miranda had already said she was going to resign. And that was part of what Obasa was saying on TV yesterday, that she has already, you know, notified them of her intention to resign. But it's not Obasa that's supposed to have gone there. So it seems a fast one has been played on the members there. Because how will the members, 36 members, the voices of 36 members be suppressed in favor of 4? It is an embarrassment to democracy. And I'm very sure that we've not heard the last of it.
Right.
One wonders why Obasa has gone there again when his case comes up in court today. So why not just wait for court to, you know, give its ruling? Why are you resorting to self-help?
Okay, we'll see more on that power play in Lagos State Assembly. Let's see quickly the international headlines today. We'll start with Daily Graphic. Amid a gloomy economic outlook, we'll build Ghana together, says President of Ghana, John Mahama, on his maiden address to the nation. And at the bottom there, we'll have public debt stands at 72 billion Ghana cedis. Well, he has his work cut out for him. On to Citizen newspaper, seconds to disaster. There was a near disaster with Fly Safe Air South Africa. This report says the airplane was speeding into a sugarcane field before the pilot regained control. And report says there are arguments about other similar incidents that were not reported. Quite a number of air mishaps recently across the world. And then we have Sun newspaper, PM's White House Summit, special delivery. Both men, British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and President Donald Trump, are all smiles in that photo. Apparently, the meeting went really well. Starmer handed over King Charles's invite to Trump, and Don says yes and backs the UK. Yolanda, you can jump in here. A few wins for Keir Starmer.
Yes, and a very big ego stroke for Mr. Donald Trump. Constance, if you remember yesterday, you ended with a very interesting headline that we weren't able to pick up. And you spoke about, you know, this Trump Gaza and this AI image. I managed to see the video this morning before the bulletin, and I was shocked because of how there was a song to it. And it actually sounded very frightening. And I think such incidents, such as this report that we're, you know, carrying right now, is a bit, it shows and says a lot about how Trump's ego is, and you know how happy and delighted he is. If I can just quote, he says about the king, he says he's a great gentleman, a great, great gentleman. While that is really nice, I must make sure he signatures on that. And what I got from that is that Trump doesn't speak about anybody like that. So he feels like maybe he's amongst equals. He's being invited now to meet with the king. So it's very, it's troubling in that it's scary how he sees himself.
This one, go on.
I was going to say though that Keir Starmer has been playing, he's been managing a very delicate diplomatic game.
Yes,
and he has shown really excellent leadership, actually more than I expected. With Rwanda, he has shown his leadership. You know, with backing Ukraine, he has shown his leadership. And even with stroking Donald Trump's ego, as we're speaking about, he's been able to show his leadership.
He's very British, you know.
Yes, he is. Yes, very diplomatic.
But I mean, especially when you contrast him with the opposition leader, Kemi Badenoch, who he once said, he just recently said he thinks she sees herself as a leader of rescuer of the Western civilization. Exactly. But I think, you know, particularly because he's coming in a post-Brexit UK, I think Keir Starmer actually deserves a lot of kudos for how he's positioning the UK and Britain in this new world order.
And good for the Labour Party. They're going to
Yes.
get a bump back at home. Charles, quickly, you wanted to say something too.
Well, no, I was just going to quip that actually Donald Trump fell for his bait.
Yes, he did. That's a good
Okay.
one. Yes, Charles.
Okay,
That's a
we'll
good
see.
one.
Yeah, British people are very good in diplomacy, you know.
Absolutely.
Let's look at the Washington Post. I don't know if we have it, but there's a story there. Judge blocks Trump administration mass firings of federal workers. A federal judge ruled that the terminations at agencies, including the Department of Defense, the Park Service, and others, were probably illegal. We're seeing a lot of these mass firings across the country, courtesy of Department of Government Efficiency by what's his name, Elon Musk, and a lot of Americans are not happy about it. Or even some that voted for Trump are now having a rethink what is actually going on in their country. Anybody can jump in here.
I just wanted to say that he fired the air traffic control workers and then tweeted that if you just retired, please come back. Because but I think, you know, sometimes we laugh and it's a very Silicon Valley way of doing things. Move fast, smash everything, and then you fix it as you go along. But you can't do that in government because
No.
people's lives are on the
affected.
line.
Yes.
There were protests, I think, in different counties yesterday, you know, people coming up and saying, you know, we're not having this. But yeah, it's a very delicate situation right now in the U.S., but I think they're going to continue doing this. I think we'll have to leave it there. We're out of time now. But Eniola Akinkuotu, Chief International Correspondent of the Africa Report, thank you for being here with us today.
Well, thank you, Dr. Constance Ikwoku, for joining us this morning on Daybreak. And thank you to our lovely, lovely viewers. That's all the time we have for you here on Daybreak. And as always, I'm Adesua Giwal-Sage.
And I'm Charles Eruka. It's goodbye from me.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.